What if the most terrifying presence isn't lurking in the shadows outside, but inside your own home? For one man, a fleeting glimpse at the end of a quiet hallway shattered his reality, forcing him to confront a visitor that refused to leave, and a truth far more chilling than any ghost story. Arthur lives by habit. Every morning, the same silent ritual. Coffee, black. Toast, precisely browned. His apartment is a testament to order. Clean lines, polished surfaces reflecting the muted light. No dust motes dare to dance. He treasures this quiet, this predictable rhythm, this absolute solitude. 3 months ago, his phone stopped ringing entirely. A silence so profound it became another layer of the decor. There are no visitors, never any surprises, just Arthur and the sterile hum of his carefully maintained existence. One Tuesday, the rhythm breaks. He's walking from the kitchen to his study, a mundane route he's traversed countless times. His eyes drift, as they sometimes do, towards the far end of his long, empty hallway. Just for a flicker, a peripheral blur. Something. Someone. A fleeting, indistinct shape, moving too fast, disappearing around the corner that leads to the unused guest bedroom. He pauses, head tilted. A phantom echo of motion. He dismisses it immediately. A trick of the light, undoubtedly. The sun, maybe. Or fatigue. He's been working late, his eyes playing tricks. The rational mind quickly constructs explanations. He shakes his head, continues toward the study. But the image, brief as it was, lodges itself. Not quite fear, more like a splinter under the skin. A tiny, almost imperceptible irritation. He rubs his temples. It's nothing. He knows it's nothing. Yet, the air in the hallway feels colder, heavy. That night, sleep offers no escape. The image returns, clearer in the dark. The frantic speed, the way it hugged the wall, the absolute silence of its movement. No footsteps. No rustle of fabric. Just a glimpse. An impossibly fast, shadow-like figure. And the guest bedroom, it has no windows, no external light source to play tricks. He lies awake, staring at the ceiling, the splinter growing into a shard. He thought he was alone. He was wrong. And the door to that guest bedroom, he realizes with a chilling certainty, always stays closed. Always. The first glimpse was a flicker, easily dismissed. A trick of the light, he told himself. But the shadows at the hallway's end began to lengthen, to deepen, almost to pulse with an unseen current. Arthur now sees it nearly every night. Not just a blur, but a distinct silhouette, darker than any shadow, moving with unnatural speed. Always from the master bedroom, past the linen closet, disappearing into the dark maw of the living room. He catches it for a fraction of a second, the periphery of his vision twitching, with the phantom image of something running. The regularity transforms unease into creeping dread. Rationalization became a desperate ritual. He checks every window, deadbolts every door, pulls up the security camera feeds on his phone. The cold, digital eyes of the cameras show only empty rooms, static frames of mundane stillness. No forced entry, no disturbances. But the feeling persists, heavy and suffocating. Now he hears things. A faint, shallow breath, like a distant whisper of air through dry leaves, just out of range, always behind him when he turns. A cold spot materializes, an Arctic island in his otherwise comfortable home, shifting, following him, settling on his shoulder like an unwelcome hand. Sometimes, a fleeting scent, damp earth after a long rain, or the stale, metallic tang of an unused basement, wafts past, then vanishes. It's an invading silence, punctuated by phantoms. He tries to confide. His sister, Sarah, suggests stress from his new project, urging him to get more sleep. His best friend, Mark, jokes about late-night pizza and an overactive imagination, dismissing his fear with a chuckle. Their well-meaning dismissals sting, turning his profound unease into a private burden. He stops calling. He stops reaching out. The silence of his home, once a comfort, now feels vast and oppressive, amplifying every phantom sound, every shadow. He's alone in this, absolutely isolated, wondering if they are right. Is he losing his mind? The question echoes in the empty rooms. Then there's the microwave. Every single morning, without fail, its digital clock, perfectly set the night before, blinks, 12 a.m. He resets it, meticulously, countless times. He's checked the outlet, the power, even bought a new microwave. Nothing changes. It resets. Every single night. It's a deliberate, silent mockery. A constant, undeniable disruption to the order he so desperately clings to. A small, domestic detail, yet it screams of an intelligence. A presence that isn't just running past, but actively, subtly, infiltrating his reality, undoing the very fabric of his everyday life. It's a constant reminder he is not truly alone. The glimpses are no longer just visual. The shallow breath now seems to sync with his own, a ghostly second heartbeat. The cold spot feels less like a random draft, and more like an intimate, possessive touch. And the microwave, ticking, 12 a.m., each dawn, is not merely malfunctioning. It's a signature, a countdown. He realizes the entity isn't just an ephemeral visitor in his hallway. It's a meticulous architect, reordering his world, erasing his time, patiently waiting for something to begin. What it waits for, he can only dread, and what it plans to do when the clock finally runs out, that's when the true intrusion will begin. The fleeting glimpses, the phantom movements at the hallway's edge, they were just the beginning, a prelude. Arthur, isolated and increasingly wary, soon learns the visitor doesn't just run past. It steps in. It leaves its mark. Not in bold statements, but in whispers of displacement, in the unsettling silence of things changed. He walks into his living room, a space he knows intimately. A book, a worn copy of Melville, which he distinctly remembers leaving on the coffee table, now sits on the bookshelf, spying out, a familiar title among strangers, not quite in place. A few nights later, a framed photo of his parents, a constant fixture on his nightstand for years, is turned face down. A small, almost imperceptible shift, yet it claws at his sense of order. The kitchen chair, always meticulously pushed in, is inexplicably pulled out a foot, angled toward the dark hallway, as if someone just rose from the table. These are not mistakes. They are too deliberate in their subtlety. The bedroom door, which he explicitly shut before retiring, is often left ajar, just enough to catch the draft. The bathroom light, which he always extinguishes, glows faintly under the crack of the door. Each instance is deniable in isolation, a trick of memory, a lapse in routine. But, collectively, they form a pattern, a cold, calculated erosion of his personal space, turning his sanctuary into a stage for something unseen. The most chilling intrusion manifests on a Tuesday morning, around 7:15 a.m. Arthur is making coffee, still half asleep. He passes the pristine white wall near the hallway's end, the same end where the figure vanishes. There, stark against the immaculate paint, is a single, dark, inexplicably wet handprint. 5 distinct fingers, the palm a murky smear, as if a hand had reached from utter darkness and pressed itself against the light. His heart pounds, adrenaline jolting him awake. It's clearly a handprint, but it's too dark, too wrong. He reaches out, almost touching it, then pulls back, rushing to grab his phone, fumbling for the camera. When he turns back, less than a minute later, it's gone. The wall is immaculate, bone dry. He stands there, shaking, his mind screaming for an explanation. It wasn't a trick of light. It was real, too real. He looks at his own hand, then back at the pristine wall. His palm is dry, but an ice-cold dread creeps up his arm, a phantom dampness clinging to his skin, not from water, but from an impossible intimacy. As he slowly raises his hand to his face, he catches a glimpse in the darkened reflection of the window. For a split second, his reflection's eyes are not his own. They are wide, black, ancient. And the corners of his mouth, in that fleeting image, curve into a smile he has never known, a smile that is not his, recognizing a presence that is now undeniably here, with him, inside him. The hallway, once a benign passage, is now my battleground. I no longer wait, I hunt. Sleep is a forgotten luxury, my mind a storm of cracked theories and desperate plans. For weeks I've wired the house, fishing line tripwires, cheap motion sensors, discount cameras projecting static onto a dim monitor. My sanity frays, stretched thin by the unending silence, by its endless, mocking game. Then, the auditory horror. A distinct, deliberate creak echoes from the master bedroom. Empty. I stand rigid in the living room. My breath hitches, every muscle taut. The sound is too close, too real. I pivot, flashlight beam cutting an arc through the oppressive dark. Nothing. Only stale air and my racing heart. The space feels wrong, as if a solid presence just dematerialized. An oppressive weight crushes, making breathing painful. The phantom touches begin. A brush against my arm, like cobwebs. A subtle pressure on my scalp, as if fingers graze my hair. I flinch, swatting at empty air. My skin crawls. Then, the whispers. A sound at the periphery, like dry leaves skittering on pavement. Or a voice too low to discern, too close. I strain, leaning into the silence, but it melts away, beyond comprehension, leaving only the buzzing of blood. My obsession escalates. I trace floorboards, noting sounds, convinced they hold a map. I stare at walls, waiting for something to ripple. One night, I catch it. Not a figure, but a sudden movement. A shadow, sleek and impossibly swift, detaching from the wall beside my bedroom door, melting seamlessly into the opposite panel as I lunge. Adrenaline floods me. I crash against the wall, grasping empty plaster. The metallic tang of ozone fills my nostrils. It's always a near miss, amplifying the torment. A flicker in my peripheral vision, gone when I turn. A slight indentation on a cushion, still warm. The visitor never reveals itself fully. It dances on the precipice of perception, always out of sight, beyond reach. This ultimate tease drives me deeper into paranoia. The pursuit hollows me, leaving a shell of fear and gnawing curiosity. But what if the chase wasn't something, but gnawing? Tut. What if it wasn't a visitor, but a terrifying warning? What if the thing I glimpse isn't fleeing from me, but from what I am becoming? I stare into the blackened screen of my monitor, catching my reflection. A gaunt, wild-eyed stranger stares back. These walls hold more. A truth, a mirror to my unraveling. And then, one night, I stand before the bathroom mirror, its surface the only clear truth in this nightmare. Arthur's world shrinks to the hallway. Every shadow, every creak, a signal. He's chased phantoms for weeks, the line between waking and nightmare blurring. His home carries a metallic tang, a faint decay. Cameras caught only empty frames. Gaunt, coffee-fueled, he's driven by a desperate need to know. Tonight is different. A low hum emanates from the empty guest room, a forgotten frequency. His heart pounds with terrifying hope. He creeps closer, floorboards groaning, flashlight beam dances, the hum intensifies. He presses his ear, faint, wet scratching within. He throws the door open, flashlight cutting through oppressive darkness. There it is. Not running, not a blur. Standing still, facing a wall that's back to him. Motionless, vulnerable. This is it. Months of terror culminate. He raises the light, ready to confront the nightmare. The beam lands. Not a stranger, but Minnie himself. Yet the clothes are wrong. Stained, tattered, an old, filthy sweater he hasn't worn in years. Its head slowly turns. The eyes are not his, hollowed, sunken pools of black. Skin, mottled gray, peeling. A dry, raspy cough. Movements unsettlingly jerky, like a marionette. It opens its mouth. No sound, only a silent gaping O. The intrusions, the glimpses, the escalating horror. Never external. The visitor isn't at him. It is him. A grotesque, decaying mirror of something broken within. A trauma walking. This isn't a ghost to banish. This is his own reflection, twisted into an inescapable, living nightmare. It stands there, watching. A silent accusation. The true horror, sharing his home with his worst self. Waiting. The world outside shrinks, forgotten. For Arthur, there's only the hallway now. The subtle shift in his reflection, the fleeting glimpse of something that mirrored his own terror. It shattered the illusion. It wasn't a stranger, a trespasser. It was him. Or rather, a shadow of him, decaying and inescapable, now permanently etched into the fabric of his existence. Every creak of the old house no longer feels like a benign settling. It is a whisper, an echo of what he has seen within himself. He sits in the living room, but his gaze constantly drifts. He sees it, even when his eyes are closed. A blur at the periphery, a movement faster than thought, a grotesque mirror of his own hurried steps, forever darting out of sight at the end of his hallway. The silence is the worst. It's not empty. It's pregnant with a presence. He listens for the soft shuffle that isn't there, the faint smell of something metallic, decaying, that only he perceives. The air itself feels heavy, a suffocating blanket woven from his own unraveling mind. The once comforting walls of his home have become a cage. The hallway, once a simple passage, transforms into a perpetual mirror, reflecting not just his weary face, but the creeping rot within. It's not a pursuit. It's a constant, sickening companionship. He feels it behind him, beside him, always just out of direct view, a part of him he can no longer dislodge. The horror isn't that something is coming for him. The horror is that it's already here, always has been, and it wears his face. To see it, to truly see it, was to invite it into every fiber of his being. The fleeting shadow wasn't a warning, it was a revelation. It waits for him, not at the end of the hallway, but at the end of every thought, every moment of peace. There is no escape, only an eternal loop, a slow, agonizing descent into the self he can no longer outrun. This profound, inescapable unease is Arthur's new reality, and it has just begun.